So we'll just start it up, see, remind myself where I was in this. All right, so the timer's working. Did it stop when I get to 0? No. All right. And my score is not working either, right? So basically, the last time I just went over creating a timer, but not putting any other functionality in there, right? So let's go ahead and open up our code, and we'll get started on that. Yes. That is true, and you are, wow, that's cool. Awesome. Let me pause. Screen is back. Here we are, my game manager, right? All right, so what do we need to do to make sure this clock stops when we get to 0, right? Let's see. Well, what we want to do in our update function, right, we want to check to see if the clock is above 0, right? And if it is, we will continue counting down. If it's not, then we stop. We don't have to do this calculation at all, right? So we can say if countdown is greater or equal to 0, right?
I did like separate things for mine. I did separate. I just thought it was easier that way.
Right? If every frame we check to see if the countdown is greater than 0, if it is, we subtract just a fraction of a second, however long it was from this last frame, from the countdown, right? Once it gets below 0, it'll stop doing that, right? If we put that logic there, right? So that simple thing right there, it's not perfect, and we'll fix it and make it perfect here in a second. But this is the start. So let's try that. So it does stop, right? But it overshoots our target, right? So we actually go into the negatives. All right. So what you want to do here, because you're never going to get it perfectly where it actually subtracts right at 0, right? So what you want to do is put an else in here. Oh. And there's other ways of doing this, because you may have done something else, right? But this is the way I'm going to do it. There's never really one way of doing anything when it comes to coding, but countdown equals 0, 0, if, right? Just kind of snap it. So if it's less than 0, you're going to snap it to 0, then you'll update the text, and it will look all dandy, all right? But then we'll look at the formatting of the decimal number here in a second, because that looks bad, and it didn't stop that time. That's funny. All right, what did I do? Let's see else. I see. That doesn't work. See, this is a failure in logic, right? Anybody know why it didn't work? What happened? And this was completely my mistake, right? So it keeps going, right? And you see it kind of flickering between 0 and the negative thing, right? Problem is I put that equals to, right? I don't need that in there, because basically this creates a situation where it gets less than 0, right? And it comes down here and it sets it to 0, right? But the next time equals to 0 is true, so it actually counts it down. So it starts fluctuating between 0 and whatever that slightly less than 0 number is, right? So I got to take that equals out, right? That was a mistake on my part. So let's try that. You said you did what now?
I use booleans.
Like is running or is game running kind of thing. Yeah, that is one way to do it. And we're going to get there anyway because there's other things they got to do that will require that. So we'll probably see that in a second. All right. But now let's look into formatting that decimal number C#. Format decimal. Two places. That looks good. All right. And there's different ways of doing this too. I think the easiest is probably that one. ToString F2 fixed guarantee exactly. Right. So you can read through the documentation. There's different formats, right? Like a F2 means it will put zeros there. It will always have two places, even if there's 0, right? There are other formats where if it's a 0, it won't put that, right? And so forth. But look through the documentation if you're looking for a specific format. But this F2 is the go-to easy one, right? So just inside here, you just put a formatting. It's a formatting code, F2, right? That's pretty simple. Ta-da. All right. So that looks great. So now we need to, as I said, when the game is over, you have to put game is over and the current score and have a way of playing again, right? So as he was saying, he uses a bool to help him with this logic, and we're going to create one too, right? So we'll say public bool game is running, right? Or you can say clock is running, maybe clock is ticking, right? Clock is ticking, right? Actually, let's there's different ways of thinking it. A game is over. We'll say game is over. Sorry. Every time I do it slightly different. So we'll do it that way. All right. So when we know the game is over, when, right? When in this block here, right? Once the countdown is 0, the game is over. Let's create a function that's going to do all our game is over stuff, right? It's always a very common thing to do because a very important part of the game is when the game is over, because that's when you check for high scores. You might check maybe you got a global high score. You even go online and check that kind of thing, right? So creating a function that handles game over is smart, right? Public void handle game over. Right. And here we can just call that, right, handle game over. We can copy this line here, right? Because if we call the function in there, it won't update our output till here, right? Hey. And here we can, let's see. Now you could create another text object. You could create another panel. That's a possibility as well. For right now, we're just going to say, we'll say output countdown. Ooh, I don't even have a reference to the other object yet, right? So yeah, I'm not keeping score, so that's another thing I got to do, right? So let's handle that first, right? Because I do have a score text, but I'm not referencing it in the code at all, right? So let's go in here and say public. Actually, first let's create the integer that will keep the score, right? Player score. And then a public TMP text score text, right? In fact, I don't have a function to handle the button, right? So far we have a timer that ends, right? But we don't have any scoring going on at all, right? So let's create a function that public void handle score button, right? Scoring, right? All right, so every time you click the score button, right, you want the score to go up. And we just created a variable called player score right here, right? And so here we can say player score plus equals, actually we can just say plus plus, right? Because we're just incrementing it, right? So that just adds 1 to the player score every time we click the button, and then you need to update the output of that. So we say score text dot text equals player score to string. All right, it's pretty simple, right? Play that. It didn't connect that function though, did I? So I need to go to, actually I need to rename my button. Nathan, see the text there? That's the text you change it. All right. I should have named this button, so shame on me, but I'm gonna say score button, right? And then we need an action for that, so we click on the plus. It is the game manager that's in the scene. And then we'll click on no function, game manager, handle score button. Right, there we go. Now it should score. I don't know if I set up that text though. We'll see. Nope, we get a no reference exception, right? Which everybody knows what that is by now, right? I didn't set it up in the inspector. So you go to the game manager and see where it says none and score text. Try it one more time. All right, now we have score, but you'll notice there's something else going on, right? What happens there? It allows you to score after the game's over, right? That's a problem, right? So this is when we need to wrap that whole logic up in our code, right? So we need to set this game is over to false at the beginning, right? So we'll say game is over equals false because the game is currently going, right? we will, let's see, set game is over to true here, right? And in our handle score button, we will say if we want it to score only when the game is playing, so not game is over, right? This is why you could say game is playing. Logic is a funny thing, so you got to figure out, you want to use the negative or the positive sometimes, and sometimes one is better than the other, but either way, the logic is important, right? All right, so you click the button, it checks to see if the game is over, right? If it's not, it lets you score, right? So this thing alone, this little piece of logic should prevent it from scoring when the game is over, right? So let's do that. Actually, did I did, all right. All right, so that's good. We're almost there, right? So we have a game that is over. We can no longer click it, but it doesn't say game is over. It doesn't give us a score like we're supposed to, right? So now we got to do that. So the easiest thing to do rather than creating a another text object is to let me look at the requirements here because I think I required some things. There's different ways of doing this. I'll leave it up to you how you want to do it. I'm a panel person. I like panels that pop in and out, right? I won't require you to do that, right? But that's the easiest way of dealing with this. That's what I want to do. All right. First off, I'll put a panel, game object, UI canvas, panel, right? Call this game play panel. That's what we've been working with the whole time. I'll drag this up and then I'm gonna put all the stuff I've created so far on that gameplay panel, right? I will come over here and make it fully opaque, right? I will change the color like a dark green, maybe. We're going to create two references to two panels. We'll have a gameplay panel and a game over panel. And we'll put those right here in the class, so public. And they're just game objects, so we call them game object. What did I call it? Gameplay panel, right? Gameplay panel. And then a public game object, game over panel, right? And we will at the game start, say game play panel set active true, and then game over panel set active false. And handle game over. We would actually, I'll just copy those two lines. I need both of them anyway, right? In our handle game over, right? And I'll have to change this because I'll have to, there'll be something else there. I need a game over panel now, right? So, in the canvas, we'll say UI panel, and then we'll call that game over panel, right? We'll make it fully opaque as well, turn the alpha all the way up, and we'll make this scene red maybe, right? What do we need? We need a text that says game over, your score is blah. So a text object and a button that lets you play it again. That's all we need. All right, so here we'll say UI text, and we'll call this game over text, right? And a button that lets you play it again, right? UI canvas button, right? I'll anchor it in the center, then I'm gonna pull it down just a little bit, right? This game over text, I'm gonna center and center like that, right? And we'll call this play again button, and we will open that up and change the text to play again. All right. Let's go to the game manager. A couple things I need to set up here. The gameplay panel in the scene. Gameplay. I didn't call it gameplay. I didn't. All right. That was a mistake. Game over panel. Game over panel. All right. Now we have all the setup. This should turn on the game over panel when it's over, but then now we need to put the let's see, game over text. I need that here, right? Public TMP text game over text, right? And we will say that right. I'll just change that game over text. Player score. Right. So I'll say game over, new line, your score was, new line, and then your score. Does everything but the play again button working, right? So let's start this up and cross my fingers that I haven't missed something, but well, the game over text is missing. There we go. All right. see if I missed anything here. Oh yeah, okay. Something is on top of my panel, so let's see what I did something weird. It's not there. All right, so I'm gonna pause this for a second. See what happened. My score button text got it got pulled out as a child of the score button. So now it's technically on top of the button, right?
Like overlaying it.
So it's blocking it, yes. UI elements, even if they're transparent, it's like glass, right? It's like you go to the ATM and there's a glass panel in front of it and you can't push the buttons.
Yeah.
It's like there's a glass invisible panel in front of it, and since this text, the layering in Unity UI is like opposite of Photoshop. Photoshop, if it's on top, it's on top, and Unity, if it's on bottom, it's on top, which is kind of weird. But so this text is actually on top of the score button, so you can't click on the button. But if we make this a child of it again, and I don't know how that got messed up because I didn't remember pulling it out of there, but it should work now. Let's cross my fingers again. Yep. All right, so. Yep. All right. And my panel does not show up. So what's going on there? All right. So let's look at the code. When you copy and paste code, and especially if it's Boolean values like this, make sure you change the values to what you actually need them to be. Because, see, I copied these 2 lines here, but that's the opposite of what I need it to be down here, but I didn't change the values. So guess what? It didn't change. So this needs to be true, and the other one needs to be false, right? By the way, the set active is very important. If you have a game object in Unity, the set active is exactly in code what you do when you just click this button here. That's the set active. It's Boolean. It's either on or off, right? So in code, that's how you click that little thing, right? So that should work. I say should. All right. Click, 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 click. There we go. All right. I haven't set up the play again yet, but that's the next thing, right? So let's go to the game over panel, turn that on, go to the button. We need a function for that, right? He'll say public void play handle play button. I'm gonna say play button as opposed to play again because we the requirements do actually call for a start button, so we might have to go back and pick that up, right? I usually do that first, but like I say, I do it differently every time I do it. All right. All right. So here we will start the game again, right? So basically we need to do all the stuff that we do here, right? In the start function. And there's a better way of doing this, but we're just kind of quick and dirty. We're going to do it that way, all right? Because in the book you remember the author says never to repeat yourself, right? And we just did that, right? So I'll show you how to clean that up at some point and make it more efficient, right? But for now, this will work, right? So when we click the play button, handle play button, it'll do all this stuff we need to do, right? We also need to do what else, right? Since what's that?
For 3D modeling, you have to hit submit assignment after you hit save changes, and I just saved it. There's like 21 minutes left to submit it. So, so yeah, if y'all have it, I would check it.
Gotcha.
No.
All right.
Normally, if you click the assignment, it automatically submits it.
Yeah.
But this one was different.
Some
And
of
I
them are-
didn't double check it either.
That's weird.
I didn't
He
submit
got
it either.
he didn't take it. He just wants us to make sure we actually hit submit, like save changes, and then like.
So that should do that. Let's go back to Unity. Try that out. Oh, I didn't hook the button up to that function, right? So I wrote the function, but then you got to hook the function up, right? So let's do that. Play again button. Gonna have the action here. Game manager. Handle play button. Then we started. All right, we're rocking. All right, let's go play again. All right, so what do we got to do now? The one last step, right? Reset the score, right? Because this way I'm getting that extra play time, putting the coin in and getting extra play time, right?
Whenever the game ends. That's when you should
Yes.
set it, right?
Yes, in the handle game over, or you could do it in the handle play button, right?
I
Either.
did the start game.
Yeah. In fact, that's probably where I would do it, right? So I would say player score equals 0 right there, right? So you reset it. When you click the button, you reset the game. You're ready to go again, right? Play again. Well, there's the drawback there, right? Well,
What's the matter?
it's a small little glitch. It's more of a visual thing, really.
It shows the score from last time.
The display doesn't update until you start clicking again, right? Let's see, watch. It's still 16 until you click first, right?
How did I fix that?
Well, I mean, you just have to update the.
Hey, you gotta.
You can update it right here, actually. So you can just say player score text, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I did.
Yep. All right. So that updates. You're updating the number, but that don't update the display. So anytime you update the number, you should immediately update the display to make sure they're always in sync, right? Play again. There we go. All right. So that's pretty much the whole thing, except I do, I think, ask for a splash screen to start the game. Most games, right, don't just throw you into the game, right? You don't turn your Xbox on and go straight to a game and it throws you in a game, right? I mean, there's a period where do you want to play this game? It's maybe settings, right? There's a start screen, right? So what we really need to do is create a start screen for this magnificent game that we have created, right? So basically, I would create one more panel and call it the start panel, unsurprisingly, probably, right? So let's go to the canvas, UI canvas panel, right? And we will call this the start panel. We will make this fully opaque, right? Realize that sometimes UI elements might need to be semi-transparent or whatnot, depending on what their function is. But most of the panels, usually, you're trying to obscure the other one. But you'll see plenty of games where there's like an overlay panel, like with like a store panel that overlays the actual gameplay, and sometimes it's not the full size of the screen and whatnot. But anyway, the start panel will look like, let's make it blue. And we just need a text object that's like our title text, right? And then a start button. You obviously, if you had a complex game, you might have settings or save game. You know, you might have any kind of number of stuff on here, but our game's pretty simple, so we're just going to have a title text object and a button, right? So we'll have a text object, which will anchor in the center it both ways, and we will call it the great All right, and then we'll create put that on there, UI button. Again, I'll anchor it in the center and pull it down. Say start, and we just wrote a function that starts the game, right? Restarting the game and starting the game in most games are exactly the same. If there's some use case where they're slightly different, then we can discuss that. But for simple games like this one, it's no different, right? So we can go ahead and call that function right here, right? So scene. A manager handle play button. Of course, now that we have a start panel, we need to deal with it, right? And our game is over is false now, right? We actually want that to be true at the start because we don't want the game to launch into the game, right? So we're actually going to change that to true. Right, and then I need a reference to that start panel, right? So say public game object start panel, right? And here we'll say start panel set active equals true. And now our gameplay panel will be false, right? False. Oh, got a semicolon. All right. And this we actually don't want. Well, we. Yeah, we don't want this here, right? In fact, we're going to go ahead and set it to 0 as well, because otherwise that will start as soon as this update gets called, right? It'll start that countdown, and we don't want the countdown to start until we're ready for it to start, right? So let's put that in there. So this will keep it from starting until we press the button, right? All right, that should do it. And I think there's some stuff to set up in Unity here. So you go to the game manager. Yes, the start panel is new, so I had to put that in there. And everything else looks like in order. Let's see if that works. Cross your fingers. Starts on the right panel. The countdown hasn't started yet, so there's nothing moving over here, so that's good. Start All right. The countdown has started, but we did not dispose of that panel. All right, so I did something, or I did not. On the play button, I did not take care of the start panel, right? So you got to say start panel set active equals false, right? So it was running. It was just running behind my start panel, so we couldn't see it. All right. Now we will try that again. All right, let's look at the game manager. The clock has not started yet. Start. There we go. That's awesome. All right, we score. Game over. Score was 22. Play again. All right. All right, that is working. That is a fully working button game there. Now, if you already have that and you want to add something, right, what are potentially some things you could add to this to make it more interesting?
Maybe like change the font. Maybe just a small text.
Visually, certainly, there's definitely some stuff you could do visually to make it more interesting. What else? What other ideas? All right, well, that's the colorful is a visual kind of thing, right? So yes, visually make it more appealing. I think we've covered that, right? What other than that?
Another thing's extra, but like maybe a way to like track your high score.
High score, that's a good one. That's always an obvious thing, right? If the game keeps a score, tracking the high score is a very common thing to do, right? So if you want to try to figure that out,
I might try to figure it out.
if you've already done this much, why not try to put something a little extra in there, right? And if you want to know if you want to try it on your own right now before Wednesday and then come back and ask questions, that's cool, right? Because there's certainly resources out there that will tell you how to do simple high score. I would Google simple high score as opposed to some complex thing, and don't do something that blows your mind you can't understand, right? So other than high score and visual improvements, what else could you do? Well, you got visual and you got what?
You got the high score, you got the visual. I'm trying to think of like
What other things are in games that you might be an enhancement?
Gold stars.
Gold stars.
Power-ups.
Power up. I don't know. If you can think of a power up for a button game,
Like double clicks.
I mean, there could be more buttons, or there could be buttons that pop up and go away that have better scores. I mean, there are other things you could do. The buttons can move, right? You can programmatically move the button so it's like a moving target. I haven't seen anybody do that, but that would be an interesting one. You could change the size of the buttons. You can programmatically change the size of buttons so it could be like something when you're trying to again, kind of a moving target kind of thing.
Or there could be it's only like a 5 to 10 second game, but like put like little things like that you click on that will like double your score for like a second or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be potentially be a longer game. I just ask it to be short because it's so simple that I don't want to sit there and wait a minute to see if the game over part happens, right? Because when you have to grade 20 projects and you're waiting just a minute just to see if the game over happens is not fun, right? It seems like a minute is short until you do it 20 times in a row. Yeah. And I mean, as far as the functionality of the game, it doesn't matter how short it is, right? So, well, video games are audio-visual medium, right? So, what part are we missing here?
Sound.
Yeah, sound, right? Sound. You could easily sounds for the button click, like background music, like the Jeopardy music or something. I mean that's the obvious, right? Because it's it's a time thing. But something background music, button clicks. There could be if you did have a high score, you could have a certain sound for hey, you got a high score kind of thing, right? Or any number of things, right? But sound is an obvious one, right? You could have special effects. You could have anyway, think of that. There's several ideas there if you want to try to spruce up your game and make it more interesting. And if you have an idea that you don't know how to implement, let me know and maybe I can help you with that. Other than that,